"We do not leave our own behind," is one of the most famous slogans of Russian propaganda. Here you can clearly see in this footage that Russian tank catched a fire, most probably due to Ukrainian counter-offensive. Here you can see that as soon as tank driver got to know that tank catched a fire, a Russian tank driver abandons his comrades and runs away from the burning tank as quickly as possible, leaving their comrades behind to burn to death. So much for the slogan, quote unquote, "We do not leave our own behind." Moving to another update. You will be shocked to know that the Russian military has lost an average of 10 tanks a day since the Ukrainian army launched 2 counterattacks in eastern and southern Ukraine 6 weeks ago. Tank losses of the Ukrainian army are much lower, only 2 per day. The difference is striking. An attacking army usually loses more equipment than a defending army because the attacker has to cross the terrain and the defender can only hide in trenches and bunkers and open fire. In addition, the Russian military still has a theoretical advantage in firepower over the Ukrainian army, although this advantage has diminished as Russian losses accumulate and the Ukrainians introduce more and more equipment, foreign-funded, and the Russians themselves. No, the rapidly increasing losses of Russian tanks are the result of leadership and morale problems rather than any technological imbalance on the battlefield. Half of the tanks the Russians had used since the beginning of September were abandoned by their crew and seized by the Ukrainians. Ukrainian army blew up many Russian tanks. It conquers just as much and adds to its own order of battle. Russian losses were staggering even before his counterattack began in late August and early September. By the 1st of September, the Russians had lost 994 of her tanks, of which 614 were destroyed, according to outside analysts. That's 5 tanks a day since Russia escalated its war with Ukraine in late February. 1,000 tanks is more tanks than most armies have in their entire inventory. The heavy losses of the rather modern T-72, T-80, and T-90 forced the Kremlin to remove older T-62, some dating from the 1970s and earlier, from storage. They just changed the rubber gasket, polished the optics, and transport them on the front line. The aging T-62 failed to slow down the Ukrainian brigades that attacked to the south and east 6 weeks ago. In fact, aging tanks now account for a significant portion of Russia's armored losses. As of September 1st, the Russians lost only 1 T-62. Until October 19, they lost 34, in which 30 tanks were intact as Ukrainian forces overwhelmed them. Total Russian tank damage on the 19th of October was 1,392, of which 801 were destroyed. In contrast, the Ukrainian army as of September 1st had destroyed 249 tanks, mainly T-64. That was less than 1 tank a day for the first 6 months of the war. Ukraine's casualty rate increased only slightly to 2 tanks a day as the brigades moved south and east. Until October 19th, Ukrainian army lost only 320 tanks, 176 tanks were destroyed. In the past 6 weeks, Ukrainian troops have lost 71 tanks and captured 194 tanks. In other words, the counterattacks caused Kiev to add more armor. Russia has fewer modern tanks by the day, and Ukraine has been gaining more tanks day by day.